Brittney Griner thought she could get away with her controversial comments about Caitlin Clark, but Indiana Governor Braun just dropped a bombshell that has the entire
The league looked into false allegations made against Fever supporters while ignoring valid worries regarding Guerrier's widely shared video. Heads are about to roll due to growing political pressure. Do you believe there is blatant bias against Caitlin Clark and her fanbase in the WNBA's investigation of allegations? Well. Now that someone with real authority has chosen to speak out against the WNBA's absurd double standards, look who's suddenly feeling the heat in a league that will stop at nothing to protect certain players. Brittney Griner has been sitting pretty, believing that her inflammatory remarks would simply be forgotten. However, Governor Braun of Indiana just completely derailed the plan. And there will be a stunning fallout. This narrative has twice as much drama and more layers as a wedding cake, so let's examine exactly what transpired.
She accused the Indiana Fever fan base of being racist. They investigated it. They said those accusations were false. The least that she could do is apologize to our great state and the fans that show up at these games and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Obviously, she's not going to do that. But also, Dan, why isn't the Indiana Fever apologizing to their own fan base for putting them through that, for going through those types of accusations? I mean, those are awful accusations. They weren't true. The fans weren't shouting racial slurs toward Angel Reese or opposing players. I mean, where is Caitlin Clark? Where is the Indiana Fever? Where is the WNBA saying that investigation there shouldn't have been an investigation? The allegations were false. Where's the apology? It hasn't happened. It's disappointing. As someone who is, my daughters are fans of the team. They've gone to games to see Caitlin Clark. It's so demeaning to our state and to the fan base to go through something like that. The least they can.
After the Sky was destroyed by 30 points, the WNBA expended time and dollars looking into wholly false allegations that Fever supporters had made derogatory remarks about Angel Reese. Even the league had to acknowledge that these assertions were unsupported since they were so blatantly false. This is where things start to become very interesting, though. Millions of people believe Brittney Griner labeled Caitlin Clark trash and a foxing white girl in a viral video, but they entirely ignored it in favor of looking into imaginary racism against Reese.
Everyone deserves the right to play. Everyone deserves the right to come here, sit in these seats, and feel safe and not feel like there's a threat or they can't be who they are. Definitely will be speaking up against that legislation and those laws that are trying to be passed, for sure.
Indeed, the hypocrisy is so obvious that it hurts to see. The WNBA will look into unseen hate speech. However, they suddenly experience selective hearing and vision issues when there is real video evidence of possibly hazardous activity from one of their protected players. They seem to possess a unique superpower that enables individuals to see prejudice only when it aligns with their preferred narrative. Governor Braun called this crap out in the most tactful manner imaginable after seeing right through it. When he stated, "I think if there was some look into what Angel Reese did, I think it would be good to put that to rest as well." He wasn't merely offering advice, he was alerting the WNBA to the fact that those who truly matter are aware of their prejudice.
Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are the best gift that the WNBA has ever had. I mean, and the fans that show up and pack that place, I mean, sell out crowds every time Caitlin Clark plays. It's so great for Indiana, but it's good for the WNBA. But how dare you accuse our fans, the Hoosiers that show up at these games, being racist when they're not? I mean, that was an opposing player who hates Caitlin Clark. Frankly, it's a great rivalry for the teams and for the sport. But don't accuse our fans of being racist. I mean, that's the kind of garbage that gets thrown around all the time. It wasn't true. The investigation proved it, and there was no outcome of it. There was no apology. Apologize to the fans. I mean, that's a simple thing to do, and I wish the team would have been more emphatic about that. Stand up, stick up for your fan base. I mean, that's who's keeping you alive. So maybe they'll still do that. I don't know. I mean, I tweeted that Angel Reese should apologize, and my tweet got a lot of reactions, but I'm not going to hold.
The governor stated unequivocally that he has zero tolerance for bullying and racism, and that he feels that when remarks are made that are inappropriate or nonsensical, they should be acknowledged. However, it seems that the WNBA only recognizes inappropriate behavior when it can be used to defend some players while condemning others. Let's now discuss this widely shared Brittney Griner video. In the video, Griner appears to make remarks that millions of viewers took to mean that he was using a racial slur and calling Caitlin Clark garbage. Griner supporters now assert that she was calling the referee's ruling a fing-whack call and labeling it garbage. Here's the problem though. Why hasn't Griner herself come forward since the remarks were clearly directed at the referee? To be clear, why hasn't the WNBA issued a statement outlining the situation? The quiet is overwhelming and says a lot about how this league functions. When there is fictitious anger over remarks made about Angel Ree that never happened, they start a thorough inquiry before you can ever say victim complex. However, they suddenly become too busy to respond to genuine concerns about comments captured on camera. The WNBA's protected class system is exemplified by this entire circumstance. Some athletes are incapable of doing anything wrong, while others are critiqued for breathing incorrectly. Every turnover, every facial expression, and every perceived insult against her opponents is met with criticism for Caitlin Clark. Brittney Griner is accused of making provocative remarks while on video, yet the league acts as though it never happened. Additionally, the timing of this debate is ideal. This occurred immediately following a game in which Caitlin Clark was not even participating, in which the Fever completely wrecked the Sky. The Sky needed something to divert their attention from their total organizational disaster because they were so embarrassed, in order to give the league something to look into and portray Reese as a victim rather than a player who was outplayed by a team without their star player. Enigmatic, hostile remarks from Fever supporters surfaced out of nowhere. However, Governor Braun isn't engaging in such behavior. He is aware of Caitlin Clark's significance to Indiana and her contributions to the state's basketball scene. He is aware that Clark has reignited a lot of that energy at both the college and high school levels and sells out the Gainbridge Arena just like the Pacers do. There is more to this than just basketball. This is about safeguarding an athlete who has given Indiana unheard of attention and economic impact. The governor's remarks that he hoped the animosity toward Clark would end while advocating for equitable treatment demonstrate the true nature of this issue. The WNBA has fostered a poisonous atmosphere in which protecting Caitlin Clark or her supporters is seen as problematic, but bashing her is not just acceptable but encouraged. The WNBA has already been urged by Senator Jim Banks to issue an apology to Fever supporters for their fictitious probe. Governor Braun is now effectively supporting that demand while insisting that reasonable concerns be treated equally. These aren't just any politicians trying to make news. These are Indiana elected figures who are aware of the cultural and economic ramifications of the current situation. The involvement of government officials ought to serve as a major wake-up call for the WNBA. You've crossed an irreversible boundary when your prejudice becomes so apparent that politicians feel compelled to intervene. It has nothing to do with politics. According to the league's own rules, this concerns fundamental justice and equitable treatment. Brittney Griner's response to all of this must be priceless. She is accustomed to the WNBA shielding her from any serious repercussions. Because of her background and position in the league's social hierarchy, she is accustomed to being viewed as untouchable for her acts. However, she now faces the potential for real scrutiny from those who don't give a damn about the internal politics and power structures of the WNBA. It's almost funny how different this situation is from how any controversy surrounding Clark is handled. The media questions whether Clark deserved the severe foul. The league disregards any potentially derogatory remarks made concerning Clark. However, the WNBA abruptly becomes the basketball version of CSI when false allegations are made about her fans. Governor Braun's request for a probe could lead to a lot of problems for the WNBA. Many difficult truths will surface once you begin to examine the evidence and apply equal standards. The league has been functioning under a framework that protects some players while persecuting others. Additionally, there will soon be significant external strain on that system. Even the exact remarks Griner may or may not have uttered are hardly the most destructive aspect of this entire incident. It's the disclosure of the true corruption and bias of the WNBA's inquiry procedure. They will look at false allegations concerning supporters while ignoring legitimate worries about players. They will rush to defend some athletes while letting others be attacked without consequence. Governor Braun's participation also draws attention to something that the WNBA has been making a valiant effort to overlook. They can't compete with Caitlin Clark. She gives the WNBA unprecedented attention, financial support, and credibility. Government representatives' defense of her and criticism of the league's prejudice demonstrate that Clark's influence goes well beyond basketball. For Brittney Griner, the timing of it all couldn't be worse. She has already had to deal with a number of scandals and criticisms, and now she may actually be held accountable for her conduct. For someone accustomed to receiving special treatment, it may be unsettling that the cozy bubble of safety she has experienced may finally be shattering. The fact that Griner is unable to play the victim card as she typically does makes this even more intriguing. This has nothing to do with her upbringing or personal hardships. This relates to remarks she made regarding another player that might have caused controversy. When there is real video proof of her remarks, she cannot blame this on her detractors or accuse them of persecution. The WNBA is currently in a precarious situation. They have two options. Either they look into the Griner problem and acknowledge that their prior actions was biased and inappropriate, or they continue to ignore it and face mounting political pressure. They look awful in any scenario, which is precisely what they deserve for starting this mess in the first place. The ridiculousness of this scenario is aptly captured by Governor Braun's remarks about appreciating what Caitlin Clark has done for the league rather than making anything that would suggest otherwise. More money and attention have been brought to the WNBA by Clark than by any other player in history. However, some players and even league officials appear intent on downplaying her achievements. This dispute has transcended basketball and now has real-world ramifications, as evidenced by the involvement of political figures. The WNBA cannot ignore this or wait for it to pass, as they typically do. You can tell that the crisis has reached a critical point when senators and governors begin to speak. The sheer absurdity of the WNBA's social justice posturing is clearly revealed by this entire affair. They talk a lot about equality and justice, but their behavior indicates that they only give a damn about these ideals when they can be applied to the advantage of particular players. In order to achieve true equality, all accusations would need to be investigated with the same haste and everyone would be held to the same standards. Governor Braun's request for an investigation may reveal years of favoritism and biased decision-making in the WNBA. It's impossible to predict how much corruption and favoritism will surface once you start pulling on this thread. The league may not even be aware of how blatantly biased they have become because they have been playing favorites for so long. Brittney Griner has never had to deal with true accountability, therefore it's likely that her shock at facing possible repercussions is real. She has been shielded from criticism and controversy by the WNBA. Therefore, she must be entirely unaware of the possibility of being looked into for her activities. Additionally, the governor's involvement makes it very evident to other officials and lawmakers that their constituents care about this subject. Voting is done by Caitlin Clark's nationwide fan base. Other politicians will pay attention when elected figures begin standing up for her and criticizing league favoritism. The WNBA's problems with respect and integrity are aptly demonstrated by this debate. You've lost any semblance of credibility or impartiality when your inquiry procedure is so blatantly prejudiced that government representatives feel compelled to confront you. In order to shield some players, the league compromised its integrity, and now they are paying the price. Observing the WNBA's meticulously crafted narrative disintegrate in real time is the most rewarding aspect of the entire scenario. They've put in so much effort to support other players and lessen Caitlin Clark's influence that they've built a clearly unsustainable system. The system is now being exposed as a biased protection racket for certain players. This debate has regional and economic ramifications that go well beyond the WNBA, as evidenced by Governor Braun's remarks regarding Indiana being the basketball state and Clark being in the correct state. Don't be shocked if the state's leadership retaliates when you target the player who is generating unheard-of levels of attention and income for the entire state. The house of cards in the WNBA is finally falling apart. Brittney Griner will soon see what true accountability looks like. Governor Braun's demand that all players be treated equally has completely altered the game. When this investigation begins, what do you think will happen? Post your guesses in the space provided below. For more breaking WNBA drama, hit the like button and subscribe.